And I'm not the type of person that makes presentation. I like to facilitate, say I orchestrate and facilitate, and that's what I probably do. So I don't know, my notes are extensive here. Where's my notes? Yeah. Yeah. These are my notes here. I don't know if I'll even go according to that long schedule. I have found out that in the first few months of AA, a fellow come up to me and he said, anybody here out of AA, you'll understand this. My home club in AA is Valley Club, and there's a fellow by the name of Captain Serenity there. Has anybody click on that anywhere? But he come up to me and said, look, I'll tell you what your problem is, Dale. And I said, what is it? I said, I've gone to therapists, and I've been to church, and I've got, books and stuff, and I've done all that. And he says, well, your problem, Dale, is you're a self-centered, selfish son of a bitch. And he's the first one that ever told me the truth. And I found out since then that really that's the way it is, that my selfishness and self-centeredness is what has always gotten in my way. Since I've discovered that probably that is the underlying problem, as page 62 of the big book says, that we're selfish and self-centered, although we don't think so, it says. That probably the best way to maybe make a workshop really function for all of us is to, since if you're like me, the reason why I like people to call me is because I never listen to anybody but myself anyway. So when somebody calls me, then I get to tell myself these things I need to know. And since I know probably most of you are the same way, the only person you probably will listen to is yourself. So I'm going to kind of involve you in what we're trying to do here. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet. Not even sure what the subject is, but we'll just progress along the way. They talked about boundaries. Boundaries are very open. There's the areas what we call the inner circle, and I guess we could play board here. I'm going to leave Jim's stuff up there because I think it might be able to relate to it, but we're talking to this thing, the inner circle, middle circle, and then all this out here called the outer circle. Now that's one set of boundaries. But that's not enough, is it? We have boundaries with each other. We have boundaries in the program. So boundaries is a very large kind of concept. But why don't we just start seeing what we can build here with the boundaries as we define them in the inner, middle, and outer circle. Will someone tell me what is your concept of the inner circle? That's a very important thing, is that we are focusing in this program, as I see it, on behavior rather than upon, or you can call it lust or obsession or whatever it is here inside the mind or the head. That can be focused on, as the abstinence statement says, as one works the program, the steps, and it will fade away slowly, slowly as the years go by. But what we focus on mainly at the beginning, as far as what we're abstaining from, is our behaviors. Okay, one of the difficulties in trying to define what your inner circle is a matter of clarity. You're trying to make it clear to yourself. You don't have to make it clear to anybody else, but you need to make it clear to yourself. If you've already had experience in trying to define your own inner circle, or you've listened to other people trying to define theirs, you will find this rather ambiguity, this unclearness, this denial, we might call it, Or I like a rather blunt statement, lying to ourselves. How many of you do the hedging words? You know, the hedging words are kinda, sorta, maybe, I think. Most of the time, you've gone through that? Yes. Most of the time I'll do this, and kind of like to do that. We go through all this business. That's why the line's there, and you got it, and you get it inside the line. It says, "One, I am now going to abstain from that behavior." What's the purpose of the middle circle? I think this is such an important idea that I really think that perfectionism is one of our big problems. I think we swing from procrastination to perfection and back and forth. We either overact through attacking ourselves and other people through our expectations, or we procrastinate and isolate, which is an underaction. And we miss go and don't collect the $200. We don't know what the center is. So this idea of going from acting out every way and just going crazy out there to try to be perfect overnight, I think is a very difficult thing to do. Some people can carry that off, and if you do, then you have the dignity of choice to do it. What is nice about this approach is that we have the dignity of choosing the definition of our own abstinence. And no one here dictates, as far as I know. I certainly wouldn't have the personality. If somebody told me, this is what you have to do, I would just walk away, you see. But we have the dignity to choose what our abstinence is, what we're abstaining from in the inner circle. And the middle circle then gives us a place to go that we can go and sort of alleviate some steam, or kind of let it out just a little bit, so we don't have to go all the way into the inner circle. It gives us a journey of progress rather than perfection. And that's a beautiful idea, I think. Jim, would you explain what your thoughts and some of the words originally behind the middle circle, as you remember it?
Well, I think for me the main issue had to do with masturbation had a big part in defining the middle circle for me originally, because in the SA program that would be off bounds. And I remember a time when I wanted to go to at that time I was kind of involved with a church on the side, and they were having a seminar in Christian dating. I wanted to go to this seminar, and my sponsor had told me that was not a good idea because I would be lusting after the women, and that would be the primary reason I would be going to that seminar. So I didn't go, and as a result of that, I blew up and I acted out. After 60 days of sobriety or celibacy in that program, I lost it, and did my acting out routine for a couple of weeks wildly. And I came to realize after that I needed an opportunity to go out there and meet women and interact with women. And I also needed the opportunity to blow off some of the horniness that's a natural effect of being human with hormones. And I called a psychologist friend and I asked him how many times on the average does somebody, the average male, masturbate, single guy during a week. He said, oh, on the average, probably about 3 times. So I took that as a rough guideline. I figured, okay, if I masturbate about 3 times a week on the average, then I'm hitting the middle ground, the center. And I sort of adopted that for myself. But I don't know, the middle ground arose out of that issue of me needing to find a release for my sexuality and a channel for it that is not perhaps my ideal, which my ideal would ultimately be some kind of, I suppose, committed monogamous relationship. But it certainly was not my inner circle,
Yeah.
which I spelled out when I gave my talk.
The big thing that distinguishes seems to be question of masturbation is whether the masturbation is what one time some of us were terming the big M versus the little m. Now the big M seemed to be that which was associated with outside stimulus, masturbation with pornography, either visual pornography or auditory pornography. Either you hear it like the 976 numbers, the sex numbers. So if there's any kind of like ritual or ceremony or length or fixations, all that was going in the direction of masturbation obsession with an addictional mode to it. But if one could masturbate with none of that external stimulus and simply do it with say, kind of a physical kind of release without much of a pattern to it and so forth, here and there, it was a very probably non-addictive kind of thing, or at least it would be a middle circle kind of thing. Not to say that the ideal, the perfect thing would be to that maybe some people would say masturbation I should eliminate entirely. But the point is the middle circle is that place whereby one can define something that one can do to prevent them from going all the way. Now, what happens when a person calls you and says, you know, I was in my middle circle and it led me back to my inner circle? Has anybody had that happen to them? My middle circle thing led me into my inner circle. You understand what that is? Yes. So this is, catching just a minute, Steve. This is the point. If what we have in our middle circle helps us stay out of the inner circle, then it's a good middle circle. But if what we have in our middle circle, and maybe it doesn't not only one time, if you're like me, I'm a slow learner, so sometimes it has to be repeated a few times. But eventually, one will conclude that what one has in their middle circle needs to go to the inner circle if it keeps leading you back into the inner circle. You know, there's a couple of items here that I want to get into, and one is the question of morality and definition of abstinence. I was talking to a fellow on the phone one night, and he says, you know, I'm scared of women because, he says, I don't think it's right to have sex with a woman. Now, this is a person who exhibits himself in front of young teenage girls. It's out there in the public domain kind of thing, involved in sexual abuse. And I said, well, now let's talk about this for a moment. It's not moral for you to have sex with two adults consenting to have sex with each other. That's not moral. But it's moral to stand in front of a 14-year-old girl and masturbate and exhibit yourself. And when he heard that, he got a hold of the clarity of how he was using his morality to cover up his sexual addiction behavior. It might be that there's certainly a place for morality. Certainly standing in this church here, and any church, one would have to recognize there is a place for moral values. I found for myself it was important for me to get recovery in this program first, and then later on I could take a look at my sexual morality and take a look what I felt was right and wrong from a more value system. But what I think often we find is a person in the name of morality, they cover up their fear of meeting women and dealing with women and having a connection with women. So in a way, I think that we might find that there's some kind of sexual anorexic kind of people involved in the program, whereby they go around saying, I'm abstinent and celibate now for 45 years, haven't had sex with one woman, and I'm a moral and pure and fine person. and they're covering up what they're doing because of this moral position, when really, if it was a moral position, it was a value position, great, fine, put them in the monastery, right, in the monk. But that's not what is happening. What's happening is that they're really afraid of meeting women, and or men. Excuse me, I keep thinking if only males here. I got to get used to that. But being afraid of meeting the opposite sex and dealing with the opposite sex. So some of us might, through our own experience, share with you that I think it's first that you focus on behavior and abstain from certain destructive behaviors in your life and put a middle circle in there that'll give you a path of progression, not a path of perfection. And that your morality and values and all those wonderful things will come as you recover. It's okay to take positions of sex at in and out of certain kinds of relationship situations, even from the traditional value system, if that's what you choose. But first, see, I know too many people who are in churches, I belong to one, that are masturbating and doing sexual acting out, but in the face of their church, they are righteous and clean because they're not having sex with women or men. So the question of morality gets involved. You got to kind of set that to aside for a moment. Another thing that gets important here is has anybody have any experience on comparison? Do you get into comparing your acting out with somebody else's acting out? But I remember early in the program for myself that this person came in, Mark, the lawyer, and I obliterated that guy, told him he wasn't qualified for this program, he should get out. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. I felt terrible. It wasn't a good feeling. What I'm saying is we're never going to benefit in comparing ourselves and judging other people's inner circle. If you don't know that doesn't work yet, just keep comparing, and now you can learn from it. Oh, that's what they're doing. Well, that's their experience. That might help me. Wonderful. But if you say, well, that person's really worse than me or better than me, it's going to give you a set of denials to prevent you from honestly defining your own abstinence. I got to check my list here, see where I'm at. Okay. Oh, yeah, here's one wanted to mention. The only one I left out on this part. I'm doing pretty good. I'm assuming that there are several people here from other 12-step programs. And the most difficult program that my experience has been to watch people come in, since I came in from AA myself, there are people coming in from AA, or even any other 12-step program into this program because they have this tremendous struggle with themselves of deciding whether their sexual addiction is a character defect or an addiction. Alan, do you have something to say about that? Yes. Yeah, we have the quick studies from other programs come in and say, well, yeah, this is a character defect of mine, and I just thought I'd come home and pick up a few rules and procedures, and I'll write an inventory about this and work it in a program and whip it overnight. Good luck. It's a primary addiction for me. I don't know about you. It's what got me drunk. It's what got me into drugs. It's what I've eaten over. It's all my addictions is because of my sexual addiction. It's the primary problem of my life. And I know what it is to play hide and seek in programs. I've hid out in OA from AA, and I've hid out in AA from OA, and I've hid in SAA from the other two, and I've hid in AA, stayed away. They can't find me, Well, as we move along from the inner circle to the middle circle, we find ourselves finally in the outer circle, which is the recovery program. And I'd like to spend, you'll have to keep track of time here, I'm not sure where I'm at. When do I end, for sure?
We started over 10 minutes later than expected, so
Well,
you can end a little after 2.
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's much longer. Oh, my God, you'd be going on forever.
Out, Lee, out, get out. Okay. Now, Lee, you're going to get it in this next half. I have not focused on you so far.
So it says here till 2:30, but we started later, so if you want to extend that.
Well, we'll see how it goes here. Okay. Getting into the outer circle, as it's called, inner, middle, outer, we're into the recovery program. That's real recovery. And what with the solution, finally, we're going to be talking about here. And it's already been mentioned that about meeting the opposite sex and the fear that we have in meeting the opposite sex. And I think here, different from AA has that statement, don't get into a relationship in your first year of sobriety. I don't know who said that, who started that, but they've been lying for a long time now. But the point is here, I would think, it's been my experience, that you cannot work a real abstinent program in a vacuum, that it is necessary to be involved in relationships. Now, when I say relationships, I mean that includes men, because as Jim mentioned, men's always been competitors to other men, women, how to get or develop a true human relationship with other women. Relationship means married. I've been married for 36 years. Through all this insanity, I'm a married man. I'm a grandfather. I have 5 grandchildren, and so forth. This means that I've been married for 36 years, but I have probably a 6-year relationship. So whether one is married or single, the challenge of working a recovery program in a relationship is still there before us. The real essence of a relationship that I want to move the group into, it doesn't make any difference whether you're single or married. And I hope there is some married people around in this room that are hearing this. To me, this is working the program. My wife said a couple of days ago, look, when I have a problem, you tend to give me a solution. But you don't come up to me and put your arms around me and say, I understand the way you hurt and your feelings. Now, intellectually, I know that. Like Jim in theology, the theology student, I am the professor of social psychology. I know that. I intellectually have written about that, but I don't practice. I heard my heart just drop down inside my stomach because I knew that I have this. I blamed it on being a man. I thought I was very clever. I said, look, it's just being I'm a man. That's what could I say? This is what we do. We intellectualize and rationalize everything. We don't know how to get to our feelings. Bull, And after I developed my defense, I realized that my growth is still there. That every day, the reason why I'm excited about my marriage today is because we are both growing and very excited. And I say this not to be performing to you, not to be an example to you, but for real. I'm in love with my wife for the first time. We have a beautiful, intimate relationship because, you see, I'm not diverting my life away from her and her by acting out. How could I develop a relationship when I was involved in acting out and getting drunk and smoking pot? And I'd drive off campus, and I didn't know which one I'd get to first. Before the evening's over, I would get to maybe all three. Well, now, as we sit here, I got to have Mark tell us the story of. He looked at me. Mark, tell us the story when we were in Pages, and we left you to meet the waitress. What happened that night?
Oh, God, right. Well, we were sitting at the table and having our dinner, and I went to meet one of the waitresses. She was very attractive, and Jim and Dale said, well, Mark, we're going to leave now. And we want you to meet her, and we'll be out in the car. Okay. So off I go to the men's room to build up my courage. And I was in the men's room for about 45 minutes. I never talked to her.
And Jim and I were thinking, boy, he's really making out, you know. I mean, he's probably got her phone number. They're probably left, cut out of the cafe early. God's, you know. But that's the real world, isn't it? The fear of meeting the other person. So I'm going to plug Jim's book called Saying Hello. I don't know how many are familiar with this book of Jim's, Saying Hello, but I would recommend. How many have gotten a copy and read some of it, any of it? I think it's helpful. And you might talk to those people who raise their hand. If I was just trying to sell Jim's book, I would be embarrassed up here, but I believe it's a very valuable thing to read. Because he lived it, and I watched him live it, and how he started out not being able to even to say hello to a woman standing at a bus stop. And he went through a tremendous amount of experiences of learning how to say hello. Yeah, there's 3 parts. And I'd like to see him write the book Saying Goodbye. And then once he knows how to say hello and then say goodbye, he then can stick around in a relationship for a while. But you have to learn how to live with them and without them, both, in order to really live with them. I mean, to be comfortable in any kind of long-term relationship. Here's the question for you now. The long journey here is in developing a relationship and having sex in a non-compulsive way. That's what this is all about. And we're not into the moral questions, single or married, or traditions or values and anything like that. The point is, whether single or married, to how to have a relationship and have sex in a non-compulsive way. There's a person I'm working with in the program who keeps calling me, and I ask him, I says, I met this woman, I got her phone number, we're going out, and I said, have you made a friend yet? And he says, yeah, I made a friend. And the next time he called me, I says, now you made a friend, have you fucked her yet? He says, what? I said, you've got to start fucking your friends. You've got 2 women in your life. One woman you fuck and one you have a friend with. And you've got to get these 2 together. One is a whore and one is a prima donna. You're split in 2. You can't get the relationship, this thing. And there's some people when they hear friends, they say, oh, you mean you want me to... I'm not saying you should have sex with a friend if they're a friend. I'm saying if you're having sex with someone, they ought to be your friend. See, it's a different direction. See?
You don't lose your wiring.
Oh, yeah, okay. I thought she was correcting me again. Back off that. Now, when I use that four-letter word in the room, I saw some people in the room go. It's all right to fuck, but you're not supposed to say it. Oh, it's better to prostitutes, get our peeping little scopes out, you know, masturbate, do all this acting out stuff, give videos, do all these strange things we do, but don't ever say the word. So when it gets down to it, I suppose maybe what we're trying to do is say that a healthy road is to abstain from our sexual addiction and develop positive, constructive relationships. We're not going to outguess anybody's individual program here. Everybody's where they are, and you need to just keep going. And the last thing we want in this program is to judge each other. In fact, as Jim was, I believe it was Jim, the beating up thing, we beat ourselves up enough. We don't have to beat each other up. So when you hear anybody where they're in the program, ride the horse in the direction the horse is going. How do we usually define our boundaries with other people? We do what and what? We slam doors in the face, yell at them, and walk out. Or we do what?
Run away.
People pleasing, isolate, don't say anything, silent treatment. There's a lot of terms for it. You know, we define our boundaries in a dysfunctional way, either an extremely passive way or an extremely dominant, aggressive way. Now, how many of you have gone on a date, didn't want to see this person again, so you never called them? That defined your boundary, right? Dysfunctional way of defining a boundary. How many have called the other person up and said, I'm out, it's over? Like a bomb, you know. I don't know, you've probably been sleeping, but all night I've been staying up, and now I'm going to call you first thing at 6 o'clock in the morning and say, we're through. Oh, my wire, yes, yeah, okay. Yeah, one of these times, you know, boom, yeah. One way that our boundaries are defined is in our roles, you know, male and female. There's some boundary definition in that. Whether it's culturally defined or biologically defined, it's there. Our values define our boundaries. We've already talked about those. They have a place, but they define boundaries. What I think is what's permissible for me and not permissible for me defines my boundaries. But if we're valueless, we don't have any boundaries. If we don't know the difference between male and female, not I'm talking about gay or anything like that, but I'm talking about our confusion about how women act and how men act. We're confused. We don't know how we're supposed to be a man and how we're supposed to be a woman. We're confused all about that. Then how do you define your boundary? Even although I mention those, I don't think they're the real essence of what we have. What is unfinished work? What I heard in your responses, and I don't mean to be critical, but I hear a lot of social psychological jargon out there to explain away and hide the work that's need to be done in the program in order to establish long-term relationships. Can someone tell me what steps 4 through 9 are about? What is achieved through steps 4 through 9? Yes. And how do you do that? You were just getting into the miracle. What is that miracle? The miracle of what, folks? Forgiveness. The miracle of forgiveness. It's our unwillingness to forgive ourselves and do the things necessary to forgive ourselves that breaks up our relationships, I might suggest. It's my understanding what steps 4 through 9, or in fact all the steps do, is simply to get into this whole concept of forgiveness. Now, in these last, we will take it the extra 10 minutes that we were late, so we can get this through. So we have about 25 minutes here, and it's going to be a 25 minutes. It's going to be very important 25 minutes because we want to find out what forgiveness is and how you achieve it. I might suggest to you, when one is in a relationship, it's been my experience that harm is circular. And that is, in any relationship I've had more than an hour, and you know which one I had for an hour, then any relationship I have for more than an hour, they have harmed me and I've harmed them. And we don't want to look at both ways. We spend our life in blame. Steve gave a tremendous presentation this morning about blame. I think that was his great message. And when did I finally realize I had to take responsibility for me and quit blaming this world, his people, places, and things about my life? So, harm goes both ways. Every time you talk to a person, you say, what's the problem? They say, she did this or she did that, talking about from the male point of view. And if it wasn't for her, it wasn't for what she did, it wasn't for them, it wasn't for it. If my car worked, if it didn't rain, there wasn't ruts in the road and high taxes, I'd be happy. You suggest to them, I get so tired of people come up to me and say, my mother did this, my mother did that. I said, I know, she dropped it on your head when you're 5, therefore you're all screwed up. We know that. Just blame your entire environment. And there's a little criticism of ACA, a little bit extreme here, but I think ACA has a wonderful message about dysfunctional behavior out of the environment. But if we just simply want to blame all those SOBs in our environment and not forgive them, we'll be hung up. We will not experience true forgiveness. If it's necessary that you confront people in your life, confront them, get angry with them, let it go, get it out, become aware, memory, all that kind of stuff. If sexual abuse was involved in your life, don't use it the rest of your life as a cover for your own mistakes. The big book is a very existential statement. That is, the old-time AA said, you have made your own bed. You're the person that created your own problems. It's your mistakes, and you need to correct it. That's why I'm sure we had an ACA program developed, because that's probably a little too strong in the extreme. Left all by itself, it wasn't taking the dysfunctionality of the environment into view. But if we can get into that idea that it's my environment did, that my environment did, my environment did, and we'll never understand what we did. This is what Steve says. Finally, he says, he wanted to blame it on the injustices of the world. And finally, it was him. What a beautiful discovery. And I might say here that the beautiful balance here is, during the lunch period, and the serenity prayer kind of fits this too, Like, maybe help me get this figured out. I think God grant me, the martyr, the serenity to accept the change, to accept the things I cannot change, get out there in the action.
That's the same.
Right. And then finally the wisdom over here in the principles to know the difference. The vision for you, or whether it's the serenity prayer, or whether it's the 12 steps, this program is a program of balance. And if you want to lose a program, you just swing in and take full responsibility for yourself and never recognize that some SOB in your life did you harm back there, and you've got to learn to forgive them. Or go to the extreme that you've decided everybody did your life in and you had nothing to do with it, so you have no mistakes of your own to make amends for. So the process of forgiveness is, one, to make amends to another person for the mistakes you made to them, and at the same time, or at some period in the process, maybe not at the same time, but in the process, also forgive them for the harm they did you. Now, why do we do that? Why do we make amends to them and forgive them? What's the purpose of it? To forgive ourselves. And it's by us freeing our own self up and forgiving ourselves, you see, that opens our way to intimacy. It opens our way to want to be close and stay close to another person. If there's unfinished business in one's life of forgiving another person, if you have a lot of people you have resentments towards and you're not forgiving them, you're going to have a tough time staying in a relationship. If there's a lot of things that you made mistakes towards other people and harm to them and you haven't made amends to them, you're going to have a tough time staying in a relationship. Let me ask you this question now. Assuming all these wonderful things I'm saying is correct, and we'll all know that this is my opinion. I say that because I know that you know it's my opinion, but I have to say it so that you know that I know it's my opinion. If this assumption then that what holds back and impedes long-lasting relationship is the miracle of forgiveness, and that forgiveness is achieved by making amends for the mistakes I made and forgiving those that may make mistakes towards me, what holds you back? How many have some resentments in your life? Now let me ask you, what's preventing you from forgiving that person for that resentment? Yes?
If I deal with the resentments and forgive people that I have resentments against, then I don't have anything to hold on to.
Mike, can I help finish it for you? You won't have an excuse. You might have to get close to him again. And you're using your resentment to define your boundaries. Is this how you want to decide how distant you are with other people, by holding resentments? Is it a misunderstanding in one's thinking that if you forgive someone, you have to be their friends again, and you have to get back in the marriage again, and you have to get back in the relationship again, and you have to be real buddy-buddy again if you just forgive them? Is that true? No. Okay. Well, the point is, it doesn't mean we have to reinstate the relationship in order to forgive another person. Think that over. You might have been imagining that if I forgive that person, then I got to talk to him or be in a relationship with him or what. Hey, if all it takes is simply forgiveness, to let go of the resentment, and that you simply feel neutral around them, then that's fine. What's another thing that would prevent you for forgiving another person? Yes. But that's a fantasy, you see. So what we do, we live with our resentment, is to keep people away from us. Is that really a functional way to define boundaries? Yes. Yeah, it gives you the illusion that you have power. Why do we want power? To control other people to get our own way. So anyway, we can get a source of illusionary power. Did the bubble give you illusionary power? Anybody involved in alcohol? Did alcohol get you an illusionary power? Did drugs get you illusionary power? Does this is a cheap trick here. I'm having trouble with my food, folks. But does sugar and flour give you illusionary power? Mm-hmm. Does anger give you illusionary power? Does blame give you illusionary power? And why do we go to illusionary power? Because we don't have what? Real power. Real power comes for forgiveness. Now, what's another? I want to get into another direction. What is it that prevents you from forgiving another person. Yes. Well, I'd be a little cautious about why. It's like this guy met his friend Mac, and he says, Mac, have you been going to your psychiatrist? He says, yeah. He says, I've been going 5 years. He says, are you still beating your wife? He says, yes. But I know why now. Yeah, some awareness is important, but the formula is name it, awareness. Own up to it, acceptance, and let it go, forgiveness. So the payoff in the end of awareness and acceptance is to forgive. Well, there's something else you haven't named. If you have a conflict with someone and you want to go in let's turn it around to the amends level for a minute. Why don't you make amends to someone for your mistake? What prevents you from doing that? Is it okay to ask another person to forgive you? Yes. Is it any of your business whether they forgive you or not? No. And as long as you make it your business, you make your amends or forgiveness of them conditional upon what they're going to do back to you, you're going to wait a long time holding your breath until they take action because they're not ready. Just because you're ready, how long did it take you to get ready? How long did it take me to get ready? I'm 59. What is this business? You know, I've worked the program, and now suddenly I'm going to pound on your door, and you have to be ready because I'm ready? What is that? That's self-centered, all get out. How many people say, well, if I say I'm wrong, you've got to say you're wrong too? Name some of the responses people might take when you make amends to them. You've made amends to people. What are some of the responses they've given you when you're going to say, I was wrong? Yeah, what's some more? Yeah, you're wrong. It's about time you admitted it, you ass nuts. What's some more? Yeah, pretend like it was nothing. They're in total denial. What's another response for making amends? Yeah, it never happened. So what are you here for? I'm surprised you took that so seriously. Denial, see? They don't want to deal with it. That's okay. That's their business. That's their side of the street. That's their garden to cultivate. It has nothing to do with you. Don't make your amends conditional upon other people's responses, or you'll never get around making amends. Then there's those beautiful moments. How many have had some beautiful moments? You made an amend, and the other person responded to you in a beautiful way. That's wonderful, and I think those are great moments in life. But if one time I decided, and this is even before a program, I was crazy, but I was practicing something. And I was practicing, called survival is what I was practicing. My teenage son, I went into his room, I walked down the hall, I thought while I was walking there, I'm going to go and admit I was wrong, I made a mistake, and he's going to jump up, grab me, put his arms around me, and say, you're the greatest dad that ever lived. Why, anybody have a father like you? You're just wonderful for coming and admitting your mistake like this. So I went down the hall and opened the door, and I sat on the edge of his bed, and I said, Randy, I said, you know, what I said there was a mistake of mine. You leave the room, shut the damn door. The reality is, if you decide to make amends to this world, dependent upon this world to you, you'll never get around to making amends. You're on the wrong side of the street. What you are involved is in a grand case of manipulation. Well, how do you forgive another person from harming you? What do you do? Well, I'll tell you, a good key, if you make amends to them first, goes a long ways in for you forgiving them what they did to you. Long ways. You hear people say, my mother did this to me, my mother did that to me, and my folks did this, and it was a bad environment. I say, well, did you ever do anything to your mother? What? I mean, you're not even supposed to talk about individual responsibility today. We're either a product of our genes, a product of our environment, or a product of the devil. Oh, yes, yes. And I'm about ready to fly here. But please, please don't suggest at all there's any part of my life that I'm responsible for my own decisions, for my own actions, that I definitely make mistakes. Now this word blame, can you blame yourself too much? Yes. That's what you do when you're not working the program. When you're not going for forgiveness, you just beat yourself up. What a beautiful thing is when you make amends. How can we how can we say hello and live in relationships of any kind in our life if we have many resentments towards other people for what we believe they did to us, and some of it's actual reality, but we're not willing to do the things we need to do in order to let go or forgive them. See, we have a lot of words that kind of cover up the reality of things. Let go is just a nice word for forgiveness. I like denial. It's a nice word for lying. Lack of self-worth, I think is a nice phrase for, I always said, a lack of self-worth. That's what you're telling me I've got, huh? In other words, I lack a positive. What's the negative thing underneath that's causing the lack of the positive? And that friend of mine in AA told me, I think, the truth, that what I was suffering from was self-centered selfishness. As it was mentioned here this morning, it's a simple matter to talk about, but it's a much more difficult road to travel. The willingness. First of all, as one writes the inventory steps, one begins, what is the purpose of writing an inventory? It's simply one becomes aware of the harm you did other people and the harm other people did you. Now that doesn't, the old-time AA wouldn't focus on the harm other people did you, but if you couple the ACA codependency information we have in the program as a whole, along with the big book, if you bring that together, you're going to hear both of them. In other words, I do inventories to recognize the harm other people did me and recognize the harm I've done other people, and I've got to work both sides, both things there in order to come up with forgiveness. As I do that, I free up my life. And it's an ongoing thing. I went into a bank about a month ago, and I walked up to the teller. I have a little side business, and I have this bag of coins, and I come up there. I had them all rolled up, and the teller at the window said, I want you to put the account number on those rolls. And I looked at her, and I said, I'm not going to do that. She says, what? I said, I'm just not going to do that. I've got them rolled, and I'm not going to take my time to put those numbers on those rolls. Forget it. Well, she got all flustered, and she called over her supervisor, and before it was over with, I said, let me do anything I have to do to get out of this damn bank, and I stormed out of there. I made a fool of myself. Now what have I got to do about this? Oh, some people say, oh, I don't have to deal with it, I just forgot it. Forgetting is the last thing you get to do after you've forgiven. After you go through a miracle of forgiveness, then you might be able to forget. But if you try to forget before you forgive, it won't work. Now, I can pretend like I'll forget it. Not a little thing, it won't bother me. Who's that bank teller? There's plenty of those banks around. I don't have to go to that branch. Just so I made a fool of myself. So what? But it bothered me down in my gut. It was unfinished business. I had amends to make. It took several days of me driving past that bank. Finally, I knew what I had to do. For the purpose to do it for this teller? No. Was I going to go and do it for the manager of the teller? No. For the largest bank in the country? Do they need me to do this? No, they don't need me. Who am I doing it for? Me. I'm doing it for me. What did I have to do? I went in. It was hard. I kept passing that bank several days. Finally stopped the car and said, I can't live with this anymore. The 10 steps is promptly admit it. Words promptly. Went in and said, you know, when I walked up there, he says, do you remember me? He says, oh yeah. Yeah. Wonderful to be well known, you know. I said, well, the day I was in here, I made a mistake in the way I talked. And once in a while, I forget that I need to follow rules. And then I did the same to the manager, and it all worked out wonderful. They thought it was fine. And I walked out. I'm just like the Hughes market. I don't love Bank of America, and I don't hate Bank of America. It doesn't rent any space in my head. It doesn't have any power that I've given Bank of America because of the action that day, because I took the time to make the amends. And that's what this program is about, is keeping up to date with my miracle of forgiveness. And if I do that, then I can define my boundaries by communicating. What do you think blocks communication? Resentments and unfinished amends. That's what blocks communication. And as you let go of both those things, you finally then will be willing to take the risk to communicate, to define your boundaries, to decide who you want close in your life and who you want far away, and find a whole new process of defining boundaries through the miracle of forgiveness by working the steps of the program. Thank you.